We're going to get more on this, what this means in a moment. We're going to speak to our correspondent Bernard Smith in Baghdad, but first we're going to go to Zein Basravi, who's in Aleppo for us. Just given the fact that there is so much happening on the ground, Zein, and it has happened very, very quickly, just talk us through what has been going on.
Well, just early this morning, before we left Aleppo, we were reporting on the withdrawal of the SDF from Deir Hafer and Maskana, these longtime strongholds. That feels like a distant memory, like a history lesson now, with how quickly things have progressed throughout the day. The Syrian military using the SDF withdrawal to make a rapid advance into Deir Hafer, into Maskana, and then beyond, going to the border between the Aleppo and Raqqa provinces. And then, in a move that was unexpected, they moved into Raqqa province, now creating this cordon, the next standoff at Tabqa, another SDF stronghold, effectively trading the standoff they had at Deir Hafer, now facing off with SDF forces in Tabqa. What we have seen is a massive flow of Syrian military and armaments, another division redeploying from Aleppo towards Raqqa province, reinforcing convoys that had already made their way towards that area in days past, just in the last 24 to 48 hours. There's been a massive flow of Syrian troops in that direction, and seeing the sheer number of men and the kinds of weapons, the heavy artillery that's been making its way there, this does seem like it was pre-planned. This is really, what we're witnessing is really the very difficult and unpretty task of unifying Syria, a place that is very diverse but remains very divided. And what has been clear is that the message from Damascus, in words and in practice on the ground, is that whether it's through dialogue or through means of force, Syria, under President Ahmad al-Shara, will be a single country with a single military, whether the SDF likes it or not.
Zein, stay with us for a moment. I want to go to Bernard Smith, who's live for us in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. We've been talking, Bernard, about this meeting the US envoy to Syria, Tom Barak, is taking part in. What more do we know about that meeting?
Well, we know that Tom Barak met Mazloum Abdi, the head of the SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces, as well as Masoud Barzani, the Iraqi Kurdish leader up there in Erbil. We got a statement out of that meeting, and that statement said that from the presidency of the Kurdish region, and it said that they welcome President Ahmad al-Shara's decree recognizing Kurds as an integral component of Syrian society, protecting their rights and making Kurdish a national language. But, they said, the qualifier was the full value lies in transforming all of this into enforceable laws and enshrining it in the Syrian constitution. Because behind all of this, these conciliatory words from the Kurds, similarly conciliatory language from Syria, is the unresolved issue of how to integrate these tens of thousands of heavily armed, well-trained, American-trained Kurdish Syrian Democratic Forces into the Syrian army. It should have started last year. It never got going. By the end of the year, that's what led to these clashes earlier in January, and how to integrate that Kurdish region, what status that will have in the new Syria. It's all yet unresolved. There will be enormous pressure from Tom Barak and the Americans that this does not erupt into a widespread violence. The Americans, big backers of the SDF, because they work with them to fight Islamic State, ISIL, in that part of Syria, and the Americans, big backers of the new government of Ahmad al-Shara. It's not in their interests, or in either side's interests, for this to escalate into much wider, violent, bloody conflict.
Bernard, thank you very much. That's Bernard Smith talking to us there from Baghdad. We're going to go back to Zein Basravi in Aleppo. Zein, I want to talk to you about people who have got perhaps the opportunity now to return home, having been forced out because, of course, of the fighting that's going on. But I understand that there is some shelling going on in Raqqa, so clearly the conflict is continuing. Just talk to us about what you know.
That is correct. We're hearing that there is ongoing shelling in Raqqa, and judging by the amount of weapons, the amount of long-range artillery, the truckloads of ammunition we saw going in that direction, it is unsurprising. It is unlikely that this will pass without some more bloodshed. It is unlikely that this episode will be over non-violently. And that is really the signal that the government is trying to illustrate to its own people, that they have cleared Deir Hafer, they have cleared Maskana, the 100 villages around those areas. People have begun returning, but it's become a security problem for the Syrian military, trying to make sure that things are safe. As we were in Maskana and it was declared to be under government control, the SDF was saying that they have pockets of fighters still there because the Syrian military came in far quicker than they were expecting and people were not able to get out. At least 4 Syrian soldiers were killed and a number of SDF fighters were killed as well during maneuvers that we saw throughout the course of the day. So the message is that these remain active areas of operation. Aleppo province broadly, things have moved on from there, but there remain SDF components there according to the SDF themselves. They still have people on the Aleppo province side of the border. In Raqqa, we are hearing that the SDF and the military, the Syrian military, have both declared curfews throughout the province. What we also know is that the Syrian military has said it has taken over at least 7 villages surrounding Tabqa. There are fights ongoing for oil fields that were controlled by the SDF. So this is a very ongoing, active theater of operations, and things are moving very quickly. We'll be watching in the coming hours and days, but the fact of the matter is, for the civilians that are caught up in the fighting, for people that are living in those areas, for the people that have left and are trying to go back, this is far from a settled matter. And the residents of Deir Hafer, for instance, that we spoke to say they understand that the situation is still tenuous, that the hope and the goal of a unified, stable Syria, that is still very far away. But one local elder that we spoke to in Deir Hafer had a very clear message. He said this is the moment where we get to choose, where Syrians get to choose whether they will focus on conflict and revenge or whether or not they will choose the idea of togetherness and tolerance. And that is really the message from residents of Deir Hafer, newly liberated Deir Hafer, according to them. That's the message they're pushing, that Syria is big enough for everyone.
Zein Basravi in Aleppo. Zein, thank you very much indeed.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news, expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.